Hiya friends, Prepared Suburbanite back at you. Hey, when I got up this morning, I felt just absolutely terrific. I had caught a few little pieces of information that looked like the midterm elections were really starting to take a turn for the conservatives, for the GOP, the Republican Party, and then I did some research. Let me get into some detail. The sense of euphoria that I had when I first got up this morning, and before I started taking a look at the news in depth, some of the information that's out there, some of the polls that are out there, some of the predictions that are being prognosticated right now around the country really dampened my spirits quite a bit. We're less than a couple of weeks away from one of what I think the most consequential midterm elections that we've truly ever had. And every time we have an election, it's always one of the most important elections we've ever had. But this one seems to bask in the shine of it really being one of the most important. And what I found very dismaying after looking at some of the trends, some of the polls, some of the predictions, is that we're still basically tied in the Senate. Right now the Senate is 50-50, with the tiebreaker going to the Democrats via the current Vice President, Kamala Harris. So whenever there's a true split 50-50 vote, she'll cast her vote in favor of the Democrats. And so Democrats have control of the Senate. And I figured, oh my goodness, with all the Senate seats that are in contention right now, there has got to be a ray of hope out there that we're going to be able to gain a few seats in the Senate in order to take control of the Senate and possibly turn this ship in the right direction, because it's about ready to crash and burn right now. It's kind of like the Titanic heading right into the iceberg right now. And I guess the hope that I had was basically dashed after I looked at some of the information on places like 270 to Win and Real Clear Politics, and I went to right-wing news aggregate sites, I went to left-wing news sites, and some of them are really dire. There's a few out there that are actually looking and putting odds down, I guess, if that's what they do, that the Republicans are not going to be able to hold on to any kind of a majority in the Senate, that it may end up being 51-49, 51 Democrats, 49 Republicans. And as I look around at what's going on, and I look at places, and I used to live there in New Hampshire, which was, when I lived there a number of years ago, it was a very conservative state. Oh my goodness, you couldn't get away with a liberal thought in that place. But times and population drift has certainly changed what's going on in New Hampshire right now. There's a fella named Baldick that's running there against Maggie Hassan. And Maggie was a former governor, Democrat, and Don Baldick is a retired U.S. general. I don't know how many stars he's got, 2 or 3, but he is very conservative, very straightforward, nothing fake about him at all. I was pretty close to his family when we lived in New Hampshire. His niece was my administrative assistant when I was working in one of the hospitals up there. And she was just a lovely, lovely person, and she did a lot of campaigning for him as he was running. I just can't imagine that a state that was so ultra-conservative has now been, you look at what the predictions are, and Don Bolduc is down a good solid 5 points. Well, that's not a seat that they're going to flip, that's for sure. I hope and wish Don the best for his attempt to overthrow Maggie Hassan, but that Democrat seat is going to be darn safe. Couple that do give me hope is what's going on in Ohio, what's going on possibly in Nevada. There's some chances that there can be some Republican pickups there. In Georgia, I don't think that Herschel Walker is going to be strong enough to overthrow Warnock. Just looking at the amount of money that Warnock has accumulated through his campaign, it's just absolutely insane how much money is funding this midterm election. Look right here in my home state currently of North Carolina, and we've got Ted Budd, a congressman from a little bit farther west of us here, against Sherry Beasley, who is the former Chief Justice of our Supreme Court here. And he does seem to be leading by a point or two, maybe 3, depending on which poll and which prediction you're looking at. But she has outraised him an incredible sum of money. So after looking at all this information and all the money that's been raised by all these candidates that are running, and we're still coming down to aggregate scores that are still calling the Senate to be a dead even heat and remain at 50-50, that's pretty discouraging from a prepper, from a conservative, from a long-time conservative. Let me tell you, it's truly mind-blowing that more than half of this country wants to continue the direction that this country is headed, and it's right off the cliff. Whether you believe that the Democrats are the warmongers or not, we were so far from war. We under Trump, he had Little Kim in North Korea as his buddy. He had Putin at bay. He was had at least a decent working relationship with China, and I didn't see any threats to Taiwan. I didn't see any things going on in Russia that they were going to do anything crazy like they just did. And so I got to give Trump some credit for some of his foreign policy victories. And as I look at what's going on with both foreign and domestic policy under the current administration, I truly worry about the sanity of half the voters in this country. We did take a payday prep trip today to our local supermarket and stocked up on a few things that I noticed were needing in our preps. We picked up a lot of dried beans, split peas, lentils, Great Northerns, that kind of stuff. And my wife and I spent a couple hours this morning getting those things all packaged up with oxygen absorbers and Mylar bags and getting them stored away properly for the future. And I'd urge you all to take a good hard look at your preps and where you are right now with your prepping and your prepping budget. And right now, it doesn't get any better timing than this to go out and fill in the gaps, begin your journey into being prepared. It's truly, truly worthwhile. I didn't see any gaps in the inventories in the supermarkets where we were today. Just nothing there. Everything that we were looking for, we were able to find. Yeah, the prices were a little higher than what we were paying a year ago, 2 years ago, but it was still available. So hurry on out now and get your preps purchased and stored away properly. This is the Prepared Suburbanite, reminding you to be prepared always, and I'll see you all on the next video.